Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Stihl MS250. Now this has been my go-to saw for several years for blocking out small carvings, medium carvings, and doing some work on larger carvings that are 3 feet and up. This saw has performed excellent for me. I haven't had any issues with it up until recently. Recently the saw stopped oiling the bar, so I'm not getting oil to the bar and chain, which means it's starting to overheat, and we got to do something about it. Ordered up a new oil line, a new gasket for around the oil pump, and I ordered up a new oil filter. Now I did already replace the oil pump on this, but I didn't create a video on it. When we get into replacing this line, you guys will be able to see where that is, and I'll walk you through it, even though mine is already done. Now with replacing my oil pump, it's still not working, so that tells me that there's probably a clog in the oil line somewhere, or possibly the filter in the oil tank. Hopefully this video will help you guys out if you're having that kind of problem. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe. When you hit subscribe, hit that bell and hit all. That way there you guys don't miss any future uploads. We do quite a few chainsaw repairs and a lot of chainsaw carving on this channel, and hopefully you'll join me for those other videos. With that, let's get started. Any replacement parts that I use are directly from a Stihl dealer, and yeah, I'll be putting Stihl parts back into this unit. If you want, I will try to find those parts on Amazon. They will be off-brand, off-make, but it's another route that you can go. You can either buy direct Stihl OEM parts, or you can buy things off Amazon, which are obviously, you know, made overseas. So if you want that, you guys can find links in the description below through Amazon to purchase parts if I can find them, and tools or similar tools to what I'm using. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do is remove this cover and this bar and chain. We're going to want to take our scrunch, we're going to go through, pull this side off, pull all this off, and then we're actually going to drain the oil from the unit to make sure that's not in our way for what we're doing today. Now you want to be careful when removing this C-clamp, or this right here. All right, see this? Got to be careful. You lose those, it's a bummer. Then you definitely got to go get another one, because they like to fly everywhere. We're going to pull all this off. In order to pull this off, the brake needs to be pulled back. If the brake is forward, it's not going to come off. But once you pull this off, do not pop your brake on, because it's going to mess up everything else you got going on right here. So just keep that in mind. Now you're going to need a T27. It's either a T27 or a T25 bit to get in here and remove some screws. My unit's pretty filthy right now. I will end up cleaning it up later, but for the sake of time in the video, we're going to skip that part at this moment. Guide right here we got to pop out as well. Now the oiler or oil pump in this unit ends up being behind your clutch here. All right, so you have to get this clutch off, and that can be a little bit tricky. But a little trick I had just recently seen was we come over here, pull our recoil housing off, which is 4 screws usually that same bit we've been using. Again, guys, I'm sorry, I don't remember what it is. It's either a T27 or a T25. Let off. I'm going to end up scrubbing this unit out. As you guys can see, it's really caked full of stuff from carving in here. So I'm going to take compressed air to this side and blow all this out just to clean it up. This also is going to help this engine in this unit stay much cooler. Right now it's getting pretty hot anyway, and it's due to everything being caked in here. See, that's filthy unit. So I'm going to blow this out. I'll be right back. You're going to need 2 different scrunches. All right. I'm not exactly 100% sure off the top of my head what size the nuts are, but you got a head right here, and you've got one inside over here. You could do this both with a wrench and a ratchet, more than likely. You put these on. Remember, this is a reverse thread, so if you go clockwise, that's going to loosen it up. If you go counterclockwise, that's going to tighten it down, all right? So you hold this side down, put your hand here. Now, this usually works, not always. Sometimes these things are on here very, very tight. Try to give it a quick pop. Sometimes they just do not want to go. Okay guys, so if the 2-wrench method doesn't work, you can remove your air filter cover. Come up here, remove the spark plug wire from your spark plug, all right? You got to pull out the spark plug, and you're also going to need a thick piece of nylon rope. Now, you do all these things at your own risk, okay, guys? Because there are things that can happen that are beyond my control, beyond your control. You do these things, something could always break. You could always mess your motor up. So, you know, when you attempt to do these repairs, you have to keep in mind that things can go wrong and things can happen. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So again, you do these repairs at your own risk. So with the spark plug out, you're going to take a piece of rope, something clean, soft, not too dense, not too hard, okay? And what we want to do is, if we're thinking about it, we're going to have to do, we're going to have to spin this clockwise to loosen it up. And we need to be able to stop the piston from moving inside the chamber, right? So we're going to fill the chamber with a piece of rope. Now what I like to do is get a light so I can just see in there. And I'm moving the clutch by hand. And as I see the piston come up, get pretty close to top, but not all the way to top, right? We do it a few times, and you can watch and see where it stops and actually starts to go back down. And that'll give you a gauge as to where to get it. Don't get it all the way to the top, but get it moving back up. About half, 3/4 of the way, coming back up, and then stop. And then feed your rope in. Now feeding the rope in can sometimes be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it doesn't want to go. Sometimes it'll stop before the cylinder is full, and you might have to help it. Your spark plug wire will also get in the way, because that's fun like that. Sometimes what I do is I'll take one of the wrenches and just help feed the rope in, but don't force it too hard. You're not trying to mess any threads up, and you're definitely not, you know, you definitely do not want to push any crud down in there from the outside of your motor. You get stuff down in here that doesn't belong in here, and you don't get it cleaned out before you fire the saw up, and you're going to have you know, catastrophic failure on your saw more than likely. So this process really is you know, something you don't want to mess up. You get stuff knocked down in here and you're probably going to blow your saw up. So just putting that out there. So I say, do these things at your own risk. You know, not everyone is going to always go the same, but if you're willing to do it, hopefully it'll help you out. Now I know Stihl makes a tool to actually stop the piston on its way up. I had a plastic tool for another saw to use, and I just did not have any luck with that. So I actually broke it off inside one of my other saws I was working on. I was like, yep, we're not using this again. So we've got the rope all the way in. I've used this rope a few times, so I know it, you know, it should be full. Now we're going to take our scrunch that fits. It should be the same size that fits the spark plug. I mean, they give you the tool you need, you know, right? This little one, which you should be able to put this on your clutch wheel, and you're kind of spinning it forward. Now, this is going to take a lot of force. Sometimes it takes a lot of force. This time it doesn't want to go very well. boy. There's a little helper bar on here. Ooh, boy. Broker free. That was on there tight. Alright, so we'll be reusing our clutch on there. We're not going to swap that out. We're going to leave the string in that piston for now. I'm going to pull what looks like a washer off. So I'm going to lay my clutch face down, lay the washer down, pull things off right in a row and just kind of lay it all out. Now looking in here, I can see my worm drive. Okay, and this looks good. You've got threads all the way around it. Do they look messed up? Do they look fine? These are fine, because when I replaced my oil pump, I also replaced my worm gear in here, my worm drive for the oiler. Okay, and this will spin, and it'll spin this little cog in here for your oil pump. Now, let's say you want to replace this and you want to replace that oil pump. With these parts out, you can do that. It is a little bit more difficult. MS250 doesn't have a hose coming up through here to just replace for an oil pump. So it's all plastic cast piping through here. Now that pipe that comes down through probably has gunk and junk in it, but I can't blow it out due to the oil pump in here being in the way. All right, so let's pull the oil pump out so we can get to everything else. The problem with that is all these other pieces are in the way for the saw. We're gonna have to remove that. Before I remove that though, I want to drain all my bar oil. All right, now the fun. I gotta go through, pop these black grommets out, which can be a huge pain to put back in. So I would probably watch this video at least once or twice before I decide to tackle this job, because there are some things about doing this process that can be very frustrating. But you get in here with your scrunch, your flathead, and you pry these pieces out. You got 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. This lower one on mine's a bit damaged. I believe the chain come off while carving. Jacked it up. Should order a new one, but I probably won't. So there's a bolt in there. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. There's 1 in each grommet. Go through and remove those. Give this thing a turn. Need to undo these 2 on the bottom. Pull that whole unit right off. Okay. Turn this on its side. You can look on the bottom, and this is where your screw is, where your oil pump is. This is pretty filthy. I want you guys to be able to see, so I'm going to go clean it. I'll be right back. Take that, again, T27 or it's a T25. I don't quite remember. And pull out this 1 screw on the bottom. Might be tough to see, but there's 1 screw right here through this plastic piece. Okay, gotta pop that out. We're gonna get in here and see if we can't very carefully pop that plastic piece out without actually breaking anything. So we gotta pop this plastic piece out. I'm gonna come in from the side here and just kind of mess around with it. I don't want to break this piece, so I'm going very carefully, not applying a lot of pressure. Alright, here's this. Now, I did buy a new rubber seal right here to go around this, so that'll get replaced on mine. Now when you're looking in the bottom, there's a hole here that piece had seated into. That's where you're going to take a 6mm bolt and twist it in. That's the bottom of the oil pump. So you can just twist it in finger tight. And I found it easiest to take a pair of pliers onto the end of the bolt, hold the saw, give it a little bit of a twist and pull it straight back, okay? Comes off. Now this guy's covered in oil, so it looks like it's been trying to pump. My guess is that there is a bunch of crud from where the oiler goes up in to where it pumps out the oil up here, which is just a solid cast plastic piece. So it's like I can't even replace it like a hose, because that's just the way it's set up, right? So we can't do anything about that necessarily. We can't replace it. What we can do though is take a little compressed air right here into that tiny little hole, and hopefully it'll blast any stuff out this way for us and get that out of there. All right, so we were able to blow that out. A little bit of stuff came out of there, not enough to disrupt the flow. So there's a good chance it's going to be the oil filter. I'm going to keep my oil pump here in a nice clean spot, a rag. Take this cap back out of here. I want to see if I can just pull this out this way, which I might not be able to. We might have to pull it out from the other side. So you see a black rubber piece down here. That's the end of the hose. I'm going to push it down into the tank. So it's fallen inside the oil tank now. There you go, it just fell out on its own on this side. Alright, now I do have a replacement, which that's what I recommend you do if you're going to pull this hose out. Get a replacement filter, you don't have to mess with it. I'm inspecting the line. I don't see any holes in the line. I have a feeling there's just a lot of junk in here. This filter's got quite a bit of stuff in it. Got a brand new line and a brand new filter right there. So I'm just going to set these two aside. Now, before I put the new line and the new filter in, I am going to put a little bit of gas in the oil tank, even with this hole open, slosh it around and pour it out into my waste container. That's going to help get any little particles out, because there's going to be little particles in this tank still. I already know there are because I've gotten them in there. I can see some stuff in there. And so I'm going to go ahead, take a little bit of gas, splash it in there, rinse it out, and then come back, and then we will put the new line and the new filter in the saw. Alright guys, so we rinsed that out with gas, and then I took compressed air, so there's no more lines in it or anything, and blew that out as well, just to make sure we got all the debris out of the tank. So I'm going to put my filter right on my line, fish it back through the little hole there where my thumb is, everything all at once. Now we got to kind of work that rubber grommet down. It should be sitting in there flat. Tricky part is not pushing it all the way through. There we go. Seated flush. See how it's flush in there? All right. Now this little plastic piece right here, I'm going to take the air to it and just blow everything through. I also need to remove this black little washer. This little rubber gasket. We're going to just take that off. I'm going to blast air through here and put my new little rubber gasket on there, and then finish the assembly. Put that rubber grommet on here. Okay. Oh, don't forget to almost throw it in the dirt. Saved. This is going to go down on the end. Actually, the first thing we got to do, I almost forgot. We got We got to put our oil pump back in. That'd probably be good, right? Put our oil pump back in there. Screw back into the bottom of the oil pump. Now, what we want to try and do is line this hole up with a hole that's down in this one, all right, where the oil pump goes. If you look down inside, there's a hole on the wall on the muffler side, all right? So the muffler's here. There's a hole over there. See you got to try to line it up. You want that hole to be that way. You want this open slot to face the back of the handle. Now you can mark the plastic if you want for better alignment. I'm just going to eyeball it here. Try not to twist it as you put it in, and just pop that all the way back in place. That should be it. Give it a little tap. That's in. Take my screw out. Take our little plastic piece here, right? These things can be a little tricky getting back in place. You gotta try to get that little nozzle back in there first. Work it in nice and slow. Pop everything down in. Okay, hopefully that looks all right to you guys. You can see. And grab our screw that we removed, which held it all together. What's neat about the bottom of this, if you're looking at your saw, there's actually a guide right on the saw for the way that oil pump goes back in, and it's right here. So this guide shows the open slot that runs the length of the oil pump facing the handle. All right, it'll make sense when your oil pump's in your hand, but what we just talked about. So the open part of the oil pump faces the handle, while that little hole faces the muffler. The saw on its side, we need to reassemble everything we took apart. So the first thing we're gonna do is take our worm gear. If it's a little dirty but looks fine for the most part, clean it up. Put your worm gear on, give it a spin, make sure your oil pump's spinning. Perfect. Next thing is we're gonna take this big washer, all right? It says top right on it. Top faces us, top side. And the next thing is our clutch. If you look at the clutch, one side looks like it's got a nut, the other side is flat. You want that nut facing up. Counterclockwise to tighten it down. Okay, so that's on. Now, we do need to tighten that. The only problem with tightening that is we're going to need to pull our rope out first. Because sometimes the piston will go down, because this time we're going to be spinning this backwards. And we don't want the rope to get caught in the exhaust or the intake areas and get cut off by the piston on the way up and cause any damage. So I'm going to turn on my flashlight. I'm going to spin this again until I can see my piston coming back up to about that 3/4 of way mark, and feed my rope back in again. This is one of those jobs like you gotta want to do it. You have to enjoy the time, the peace and quiet, have the time and just enjoy doing these things. You may find yourself getting frustrated. Once your soft rope's back in, you can put your scrunch on. This time you're going to be pulling it to you. If the muffler's away, the handle's in your belly, you're pulling it to you to tighten down. Okay. Now I'm going to spin the unit backwards the opposite way, just a little bit. We're not trying to loosen anything, we're just spinning it back to bring the piston down so we can pull our rope out. All right, and now we're going to put our spark plug back in. And I'm putting the spark plug back in right now just so I don't get any debris in the motor. Got those parts back in. We'll move back over to this side of the saw where the clutch is and everything. We're gonna need to put our sprocket back on, okay? Now, when you look down in here, there's a little notch on the sprocket. And there's a little pin for the oiler. It sticks out just past the clutch wheel, okay? I don't even know if you guys can see it, but if you follow this down in here, there it is. Move it into the light just a little bit, right there. That tiny little pin just sticking out. These have to align, all right? Again, these have to align. If these do not align, the oiler and all the work you did isn't gonna work. So place it right over top, look down, and just line it up. You'll feel it go and seat down in place. Now I need to take that washer, it's a little concaved, have that concave piece facing up, pop that on, take your C washer, your C clamp, whatever you want to call it, spring clamp, pop that on. So this is now ready to go. I gotta put that handle back on, guys. Put it over the top. A little bit of finagling has to happen here. I'm going to start with these 2 screws and then we'll line the rest of these pieces up. Guys, we've got the saw all back together. I've put bar oil in the unit and now it's time to fire it up and see if the oiler is working. Right, so I know the oiler's working. That is awesome. That means I should be able to get oil down the bottom. Really appreciate you guys watching. If this video has helped you out, be sure to give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe. You guys can leave me a comment below. I could try to help you out if you have questions. I don't have all the answers, but I do enjoy trying to help you guys out and work through these problems on these kinds of units. If you guys have other saws, you need help with other things like that, be sure to check out the Fix It Yourself playlist. Walk you guys through working on MS-170s, MS-180s, the 250 and 025 and 029. A few different saws and a few different videos. So lots of other things going on. Also, you guys can check out my chainsaw carving playlist. And a big shout out and big thank you to those of you that have become members to help support this channel directly. You guys are awesome and I really do appreciate all that you do in helping me keep this channel rolling. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.